everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are on another episode of MR Presents. Today we have a group of panelists joining us today to discuss responsible fashion. We have Ashley Skywalker from Leimert Park Threads. He's based in LA. We have Jack Watkins from Propaganda Agency, who's also in LA. And we have Tommy Flame from Fox and Robin, who is hopping around. He's in Charleston right now, but is New York based. So yeah, to say that 2020 has been a year is an understatement. We started off kind of happy, oh, it's a new decade, it's gonna be amazing. But then soon we had devastating wildfires in Australia, then an impeachment, and then our current situation of COVID-19. This caused a shutdown across the world, and for us specifically in fashion, it caused us to pause everything from production to marketing to creating new assets to re-examining how the industry works. So right now, our wonderful panelists, I want to ask each one of you to tell me briefly about your brands and how you're addressing these various issues. I know you're not addressing everything at once, but just what's happening on your end now that COVID has sort of taken over. I'll start with Tommy.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. So I'm the founder of Fox and Robin. We're the first activewear brand to disclose our factory workers' wages. I think there's a lot of just touching on the COVID-19 and it kind of stopping a lot of, the normal course of business. I think there will be a lot of silver linings out of this pandemic, one of which hopefully will be a return to slow fashion. I know, obviously, fast fashion has been the name of the game for the past 20 or 30 years, but we're really focused on timeless, high-quality products that are relatively seasonless, and hopefully a lot of brands, kind of follow suit. But yeah, that's really our main thing, is being perfectly transparent, and then, kind of updating the customers with the improvement of our supply chain as we kind of accomplish those milestones.
How about you, Ashley?
I'd say that we basically at Leimert Park Threads, we are sure to involve the community in how we sell our garments, as well as how they're made, promoted, and celebrated. And so I think that, being able to celebrate culture through, an item of clothing is in itself like, a way where people are able to attack social injustices or to, really state how they feel about what's happening in the world. I think that in terms of dealing with COVID specifically, like, we haven't done that, but it's like in the Black community, we definitely have gotten closer. And I think that in the midst of everything going on, it's just really been about showcasing your pride in whatever your culture and nationality is, and your race, your creed, your preference, like whatever that may be. And so in that way, I think that that's how, Leimert Park Threads has contributed to it.
Jack?
Well, I think for Propaganda Agency, I think what it's allowed us to do, we actually own our knitwear factory in Peru. So Peru shut down really early, and they shut down complete. So, and they did shut down for about 3 months. So we kind of took that time to reevaluate the factory side of things and how we're manufacturing responsibly. When I bought the factory about a year and a half ago, they were in a horrible building. Didn't think that the working standards were up to my standards or what standards should be. So we took that time to go ahead and move the factory, upgrade the new location with things that were better working conditions for our employees, make sure that they were happy, well taken care of. Safety issues, safety concerns that we had at the old building, made sure that we got all those things up to a standard that we found acceptable. As far as what COVID is done as well, is it has allowed us to look at our weaknesses. As far as our digital game, and things like that. Cause we were very much focused on markets and that kind of a thing. And our digital was probably our weakest point. So it's allowed us to do that as well. It's to kind of up our digital game and kind of reboot a little bit. I also agree with the fast fashion take that Tommy had. I feel like it's, you know, we do hand looms pretty much primarily. So, you know, each piece takes a lot of time to produce. It's not a quick, you know, on a sewing line and bang it out really quick, and we can bang out 1,000 pieces a day. Like if we're doing a hand loom sweater, we can do about 10 to 15 a day. So, you know, hopefully we will see more of a direction of long-term fashion, more sustainable things instead of just quick fashion, bang things out with whatever materials you can get at the cheapest, quickest. So I think that's kind of what we've done during this COVID period to kind of improve ourselves.
Right. So as I mentioned, coronavirus forced the world to stop, but do you think, in your guys' opinion, has this helped to accelerate or cause an increased focus on being more mindful in business in general, not just in your business, but across the industry? Do you think more brands are taking accountability for their impact on the world, be it on the production side or social side?
Yeah, I think that brands are definitely being more mindful and more conscious. I think that customers are being more mindful and more conscious in terms of where they spend their money. So I think that, you know, by customers really kind of narrowing in and being like, okay, like, how do I connect with this brand and how do I relate to this designer or whatever that brand may stand for? Brands are having to be more mindful about, you know, how they present themselves to the customer. So I think that has definitely, you know, made brands change kind of direction, especially if it comes to impact on the planet and things like that. Then, yeah, you gotta really understand, like, are all of your clothes about to end up on a landfill somewhere, or are people really going to be able to buy them and enjoy them? And, you know, you don't have all of this excess. So I hope it's helped.
And Tommy, you have an interesting background. You're not from a fashion background. So what's your take on all this, since you're relatively new to the industry?
Yeah, so just from my experience, right now we're in the product development stage with a lot of our products. We basically have only produced shorts, but we have about 20 or so products in the pipeline. So yeah, just speaking from my experience over the past, you know, year or two, it's really focused our product development on more timeless products. A lot of the trendier items in our lines, not that we had a ton to begin with, because we have been focused on a slow fashion model from the onset, but especially with Corona, that's definitely amplified our focus on slow fashion and has really forced us to, you know, kind of reconsider any trendier items, because the timelines have been pretty slow. I don't know what your guys' experiences have been, but especially as a new brand, we don't have a ton of leverage with the factories we work with from a timing standpoint. We're not one of their bigger clients. So when we ask for, you know, in the context of product development, when we ask for, you know, revisions to samples and stuff like that, it takes a while for them to, you know, give us new samples. So we almost can't really think seasonally, which, you know, I think is beneficial from an environmental standpoint. But yeah, that's been my experience. It's really just kind of slowed down product development substantially, and essentially not allowed us to think about products seasonally, how I'm sure most fashion brands think about it. But I think that might be a good thing, at least for the environment. So that's been my experience.
How about you, Jack?
I would agree. I think that we've spent more time now in our sourcing side of things, looking at different fabrications, studying up on different, you know, like Pima cottons. We've been now sourcing organic Pima cotton down to the seed level instead of just the processing level. So, you know, where before you can get certified as an organic cotton without having the seed actually be organic cotton. So we've taken the time to go ahead and now research our yarns that we're using, where we didn't have time to do that before because we were always butted up against another deadline and another deadline and another show and another this and another that. So we've just kind of taken the time to just kind of clear the decks, look at everything that we're using, look at how we're manufacturing. And I hope that others have as well. I mean, I don't know what others' experience have been as far as their timelines and deadlines and what they're doing. But for us, it came to a screeching halt. So it was like, okay, what else can we do now to improve the environment, to improve how we're doing things, to be proud to show people what we do, how we do it, materials we use, and really just kind of look ourselves in the mirror and say, can we be proud of what we're putting out there, and have complete transparency on that. So I think that's where we've kind of placed our focus. It's been tough because, for the last 15 years, I could take, let's say, a spring calendar, a seasonal calendar, and I could just basically roll that into the next season and just kind of change a few things here and there. Now it's like kind of, well, where is the calendar? What is the calendar? When are we showing fall? When are retailers going to be buying into fall? Is it going to be more of a non-seasonal collections going forward? How is all that going to work? It's just kind of like there's a lot of unknowns right now as to how people are going to move forward.
And Ashley, you brought up a good point about what consumers are looking for, and consumers almost having the power to put their money into brands that they believe in, that are contributing positively to the world. I wonder, is this more of a generational thing? Is it more for millennials and younger that are more mindful, or are we seeing the older generations starting to get into this? What are you guys seeing?
I think that the younger generations influence the older generation. So if their kids are, more concerned about what's behind the brand, then I think the parents will be too, because the parents usually give them money to buy clothes, So I think it'll be long lasting, hopefully at least, that people think about what it is that they're buying and what the brands that they're buying into are all about.
Do you guys think this is trying to counter to our mass consumerism that we've sort of been conditioned into contributing to? Or do you think, what are you seeing in that realm?
Jack, you do a lot of work with your manufacturing. You've mentioned that a few times. Like, you feel like factories want you to make more stuff, and they have a problem with you just doing a small order or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we've run into issues where we can't mass produce, for sure. I mean, we are a small factory. We are more kind of artisanal in the sense that we do a lot of hand looms and things like that. I think that you're absolutely right. I think that fashion has always been about the youth. The youth always kind of determine the direction that we're headed into. So I do think that this is going to be somewhat of a long-lasting thing. I think fast fashion was very irresponsible as far as the environment is concerned. Working for other brands in the past and watching kind of what was going on and materials being used and how things were being manufactured and how things, even down to the shipping level, using boats instead of planes and things like that. I think we really needed a little bit of a reboot. Let people have a chance to really examine what they're doing, how they're doing it. And hopefully that'll be the positive that comes out of this, is that more brands are more aware of the environment and their actual impact on the environment.
Tommy, are you seeing anything in your development that consumers, particularly younger consumers, are looking for more mindful brands to buy into?
Yeah, I think, consumers so far, our messaging has resonated with the younger population. And I think they really appreciate just more mindful brands that are, I don't think that people want necessarily perfect brands, but they want perfectly transparent brands. And they want brands that they can trust to do the right thing behind closed doors. I think Patagonia is a good example of a company that does something like that on a larger scale. So that's really what we're trying to do. We're just trying to do the right thing behind closed doors. And, with our focus on transparency, we're hoping to earn the trust of millennials, which thus far, I think, from the initial early feedback, customers are really appreciating the transparency. And specifically, what's been interesting is I have on our About Us tab, we have a room for improvement section. And I've had several comments. A lot of customers have specifically called out that part that they particularly appreciate, which I found interesting.
What are some of your room for improvement points?
Yeah, so right now we're more focused, if you're looking at the ESG realm, we're more focused on the S&G, so the social and governance. We really need to start growing into our environmental focus. It's pretty typical of activewear brands, but we use a lot of like polyesters and synthetic materials, which are not good for the environment. So we're incorporating in our newest line, we're incorporating some recycled polyesters, but still, each time you put it through the wash, the microplastics and microfibers, there aren't a ton of alternatives, at least that I've seen. And if anyone listening knows of any, please feel free to reach out. But yeah, I think we need to balance quality and environmental footprint in terms from a fabric standpoint, but that's certainly a big focus. I want to start, and one of our big areas, room for improvement, is incorporating more environmentally friendly fabrics into our products.
And Jack and Ashley, do you guys have any things do you have a similar room for improvement kind of goals, or are you guys happy where you are in terms of your business?
I definitely,
No, go ahead.
For me, I like to connect with the customer. So that transparency that Tommy was talking about, I think that's something that we're working on getting better at, and really having great customer service for customers that we deal with around the world. And so honestly, some of our stuff is print on demand as well. So the amount that we have to make isn't like we're not having all of this inventory. So it really is like made per order a lot of times. And so if there's any delays with that, and so like there was definitely some delays with COVID and that production process. So just staying in contact with customers and making sure that they get their deliveries on time has been a big focus for us.
Jack?
I think there's always room for improvement. And I think
Right.
that's kind of why we've taken that time to break down how we're manufacturing our goods. And, we are also pretty much made to order. So we're not carrying any stock. We don't do online sales through our company. We do them through some of our retailers. But we kind of get our orders at the end of the season. We close it out. We move on to the next season. Just to limit what we're doing. We don't want to overproduce. We don't want to just produce to produce and have inventory sitting around. So yeah, I think that's been our focus since this kind of started.
So 2020 has not only engulfed us in coronavirus, but the end of May, we also witnessed the tragic death of George Floyd and the reemergence of the Black Lives Matter movement. This, in a microscopic level in the fashion industry, has also helped to raise awareness of minority underrepresentation in the industry. With this awareness taking hold, do you think it has penetrated enough of the industry? Is it going to continue to penetrate, and do you think this will continue to last, hopefully continue on into the future? Anyone?
I think that it's like proven to be something that is continuous in terms of whether it's more models of color on the runway or whatever that may be, more representation in ads. It's always going to be like an issue until it's not. So I think that until it becomes like normalized and it's really just not like some magical thought, like it's really just like a normal thought to be inclusive and to look at other types of people for different types of jobs and collaborations and things like that, then I think that will continue to be like an issue that people become in an uproar about. But I think once it becomes normalized, which I think it eventually will, then, then it would just be just another day where we're working with people that are different than us. So, yeah.
I was actually really hoping that this wouldn't turn into like some kind of a hashtag moment and sort of a marketing like ploy, you know what I mean? Like I would really hope that we can see actual movement on the issues and address the things that are so glaringly obvious. I've worked in this industry for about 25 years. I worked for a lot of different brands, and a lot of times that's just not something that you see in the staff, is a lot of diversity. So I really do hope that this doesn't become sort of I hate to use the word, but sort of a trend, where everybody's like blacking out their screens and sending hashtags, and then it's just kind of gone in a year. But I think that that's up to us, you know what I mean? And it's up to especially like me and my brand to make that, to take action, not just send a hashtag and be like, cool, I'm in, I'm part of the scene. Like, I'm on board. Well, if you're going to be on board, it actually requires action. And how long we can sustain the momentum is solely on us. So I just think it's incumbent on us to actually make the change that we're hashtagging about, and actually do something.
Have you guys seen any movement or programs that you think are working in this area? Like, for example, the Black in Fashion Council was formed. What else have you seen that you think is helping to maintain this as beyond just a trend or marketing?
I think that people are just becoming empowered. I think that, so it's not so much about like even the companies that are doing things or the organizations that are being created. It's just like people are becoming empowered to know that their creativity has value, and that, if they think that a shirt design that they made is cool, then 150 other people will think it's cool, and so on. So I think that, in that process of young people becoming more empowered in their creativity and learning how to create brands or businesses, then it will just continue, and then the workforce will be more diverse. Like everything will just open up. So it's, as people continue to grow their own personal brands and work on the inside of their companies, and I think it'll just be a collective conscious shift that continues to happen.
Right. So how do you think all of this change that we're seeing, how can this translate into becoming more of a mainstream issue within the industry? So most of the mainstream brands pre-COVID were starting to release like little sustainable or carbon neutral capsule collections. Do you think these companies will eventually make this more of a permanent thing in their collections, or is this just marketing?
I think it would be nice to see it come out of the capsule collection and just be kind of your standard train of thought, right? Like, what are we doing? How can we do it better? What impacts are we having on the environment? And understand that everything that you do, everything that you make has an impact. How you ship it has an impact. Every aspect of this industry has an impact on the environment. I hope that, we move this more into the mainstream and not so much of, once again, a hashtag kind of trend movement where we're making a capsule collection, which just tells me like, we're willing to invest in a capsule collection because that's what seems to be what's wanted in the marketplace, but we're not fully committed to actually taking that big step. And so I hope it becomes more of a mainstream thing. And like I said, even with the Black Lives Matter movement, it's about what we do to keep that movement going and to demand, that people make those changes, whether it be environmental, socially, or whatever it may be. So I always worry about things becoming sort of a trend and dying away, or a hashtag and then it's just gone. So I think it's about our actions.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it does become more mainstream and not just a capsule collection, you know?
Right. Tommy or Ashley?
Yeah, I don't know if I can speak to whether, and I think it probably is dependent on the brand, whether these big corporations that are coming out with these publicly stated goals, whether it's more marketing or whether it's actually integral and a fundamental change to their business model. It probably depends on the business, and I don't know if I can speak to how much of it is marketing versus a genuine change. One of the ways we are protecting ourselves, especially when you're dealing with these large public corporations that, especially if they're a C corporation with shareholder primacy, at the end of the day, they're, legally obligated to maximize profits for shareholders. So there's only so much they can do, in the environmental and social fronts. We're incorporated as a benefit corporation, which kind of protects our focus on a triple bottom line, the environmental, social, and financial. But yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on the brand, whether it's more marketing or it's an integral part. The optimistic part of me would like to think that, I think brands are starting to change and, the industry is moving in the right direction. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with Tommy.
So I'm not on the brand side, obviously, so I'm not so engulfed in this as you guys would be. In terms of sourcing, how do we get the costs down to be able to make sustainable or eco-conscious clothing at a reasonable cost? How do we do that?
Yeah, I don't know what your guys' experiences have been like, but so our wages of the workers are almost 100% of our factories pay a living wage, and they're our prices are pretty as I think you alluded to earlier. I'm not coming from the fashion industry, so I kind of lean on my fashion designers who have been in the industry for quite a while to tell me whether the prices are reasonable. But from what they say, our prices are pretty in line with most brands. They're a little higher, but there's plenty of room for profit. So I think there definitely is room for being environmentally and socially conscious while still making a profit. To be honest, I haven't really run into the issue of exorbitant pricing because we're trying to incorporate recycled polyester or we're trying to pay a living wage. I haven't run into the issue of exorbitant prices yet. I mean, obviously we're still pretty early, but so far so good on that front.
Yeah,
Jack,
also pretty early here too. Still looking for more resources where I can utilize something that's more environmentally conscious, factories that are, really giving back to the community, or the factories that are the community. Whether that's like Peru or Morocco or something, in terms of outsourcing in that way, where I'm like really working with a community or a village of people to, create something cool that, they can also be proud of. Then that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I'm in the process of still looking. Yeah.
Well, if you need help in Peru, you know where to turn. I'm always
All
happy.
right.
I've got plenty of sources there.
For sure.
And for our brand, we've been able to just kind of absorb those costs. Obviously using the yarns that we're using, especially when you start going with more organic and that kind of a thing, the yarns are more expensive. The lead times get a little bit longer, which has just forced us to kind of adjust our timelines a little bit. We've absorbed a little bit of cost. I don't want to pass that on to the customer. So we've been kind of lucky in that sense. And we have that advantage that most people don't, where, we own the factory. So, I can dictate the pace there. And I've been in your guys' shoes where it's like, I don't have a lot of pull with the factories, it takes them forever to get me my developments. When I want to try a new yarn, it takes forever to get that developed. It takes forever for them to find it and send it and deal with it. So it makes it a lot easier when, you know, I also live part-time in Peru when we're not in COVID. So I'm able to go visit the yarn suppliers myself and kind of deal with it on my own, which that's one of the things that I enjoy the most, is just going to see what new yarns they have and what they're doing and that kind of a thing. So that's kind of where we are.
Do you guys think there's like one basic step that any brand that's interested in entering this space, like being more mindful or transparent or anything, is there one step that they could take to move in that direction? In your opinion?
Knowledge, research, look at who you're using, what they're doing, how they're producing, look at their, you know, the work environment, make sure that they're getting certified through people like Intertech or whoever it is that you want to use. Go visit your factories as much as you can. Be on the ground as much as you can. I know that's difficult to do, but you know, the more that you have your own eyes on what's going on, the more you trust what's going on and the more you can feel comfortable with that and presenting that. But I think first and foremost, it's all about knowledge.
Yeah, to echo that, I think again, I'm new to the industry, but from what I understand, contracting is a huge I don't know if you want to use the word issue, but it was, quite frankly, it seems like a lot of brands just don't know where their clothes are being made, or at least portions of their orders are being made with subcontracting. So I think the first step, to Jack's point, is knowing your supply chain, knowing, you know, where your clothes are being made, where the fabrics are being made, and that probably involves restricting subcontracting, but yeah, just knowing your supply chain is the first step, which, quite frankly, seems like a lot of brands don't fully know their supply chain. So that, I think that's honestly one of the biggest issues, is that they don't know where 100% of their clothes are being made.
Yeah, true. That's very important. And I think just know people like Jack and continue to network and use your network to, you know, figure out who those factories are, where they are, and how they operate, for sure.
I know you guys are in different stages of retail distribution. When it comes to retailers, what could they do to help you guys promote your brands so that consumers that are looking for more mindful brands can find you easier, like in small towns that you may be selling or whoever? What do you look for when you join a new retail store? And then how can they help to promote your business?
I think it's hard for a small brand, right? Like, you know, we are fairly new. So getting retailers to, you know, put us up on do posts for Instagram or do a little thing on their web or whatever it may be. I try to send out a product acknowledgement and brand information and our factory information out with every order that we send out to a retailer so that they have that information. I would love to see them use it more, I guess. I mean, I love all our retailers. Don't get me wrong. They're all amazing. They're great people. They're great stores. But if you're asking that question, maybe just, you know, maybe utilize the information a little bit more that we're providing. But it's hard, you know, you're sitting in places with a Tom Brown or Ralph Lauren's or whoever it may be. And, you know, a lot of times the posts are going to be geared towards brands that people are very familiar with, that people love. And that's great. But yeah, if you're asking the question, what could they do? I guess that's where I would fall on that.
Yeah, because retailers will be watching this, so they need to know how to better help you guys. You know.
Yes, absolutely.
I would
mean,
say,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, like Jack was saying, like utilize the information, the content that brands give the stores to, you know, to showcase their brand. I think creating great content of your product is really important. So making sure that there's that out there, you know. I think for me, it's like being being like an artist signed to a label. The label's not gonna like put me out there unless I'm making some noise. So I'm just focused on making noise.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree with all them, but yeah, to all the retailers watching, we're going to start trying to get our clothes into stores in 2021. So if they want ethical activewear, it's Fox and Robin. So but yeah, we haven't really started trying to get in retailers. We're starting to network now, and then 2021 is the hopefully a big year for us. COVID's obviously throwing a wrench in things, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays a factor. But yeah.
Cool. And I know we sort of touched on this already, but in your guys' own experience / research, what are consumers looking for now when they're shopping? Not specific categories or products, but like, what are they buying into? Is it wellness? Is it social responsibility? Is it fair trade? Is it carbon neutrality? Is it brands that are promoting diversity and inclusion? What are you seeing, just generally?
I think.
Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say, I think it probably looks different for different brands. I think people just want to rep brands that they believe in. And I think that can look differently depending on what the person values, what the person is passionate about. So some people are more passionate about the environmental issues. Some people are more passionate about the social issues. I think there's so many forms that can take, but probably the commonality is that people want to, increasingly so, want to rep a brand that they feel passionately about. With so many options out there, I think that's the commonality. I think they want to represent a brand and support a brand that they can get behind.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all about passion and common interests and brands that represent who you are as a customer. So, for us, definitely people are all about social justice as well as diversity and inclusion. And so that's something that we're passionate about, and that's something our customers are passionate about. So we definitely connect on that level.
Agreed. I think it has a lot to do with social justice and environmental issues right now. Hopefully that continues long term. It's interesting. I'm kind of waiting to see, like everybody else, what are consumers going to do? How are they going to react to this? Like, we just delivered our fall production a couple weeks ago. So it's kind of like, let's see where the market is. I think we're all kind of flying blind right now as to how consumers are reacting to this, or at least we are as a brand. We're kind of flying blind, waiting to see how things are moving on the floors and what direction people are buying into. We as a brand have always made things that we consider to be kind of classics and not necessarily trend pieces. A lot of the cardigans and a lot of the sweaters from my inspiration could go back to the 70s and the 80s and the Fred Perrys and the brands like that, where 5 years ago I could wear a cardigan that I wore in high school, and it's still on point. So for me, it's kind of not necessarily catering to a certain specific trend, but more of timeless pieces. And I think Tommy was speaking to that a bit earlier of, not everything has to be seasonal and kind of like, okay, well, this is so fall specific. And so like at the moment trend specific, that it can become out of style at some point where someone may not want to wear it, as opposed to something where it's just a timeless garment, that if you spend a substantial amount of money on it, you're gonna be able to wear it for 10 years. It's always going to be a staple in your closet. It's always going to be that basic, or however you want to term it, that you can always wear.
So do you guys have any like big ideas on how to get those lines outside of stores that, those traditional hype beast brands get, but for brands that are actually doing something to contribute to the world? I know it's like
I
an
don't know.
esoteric question, but
I personally don't know because I don't like, I try not to subscribe to hype beast culture, but you know, because I think that it's so temporary and that's why the lines are there. But I think that, yeah, if there's lines for free bread, we're giving out bread, you know, or something, like whatever you need. But I think that it's about like literally like feeding communities right now. So I think that, you know, those lines will soon become obsolete.
Yeah, I think.
Online.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know if there's a single thing we could do that would result in long lines. If anyone can think of a good idea, I'm all ears. But I think it's more of a repetition of just continually doing the right thing, and it's honestly like a slowly building, you know, a gradualness to it. I think you repeatedly do the right thing, you repeatedly make quality products, you repeatedly, you know, stand up for what matters, and over time, as you grow your community of followers, I think, you know, eventually maybe there are long lines at your stores, but I don't know if it's like a single event. I think it's a gradual repetition, and I think the process will probably be slow, with the hope that one day people feel that passionately about your brand, where they're, you know, willing to wait in line for you know, supporting your cause.
I agree. I think it's just a matter of doing the right thing and consistently doing the right thing season after season after season, and constantly being out there looking for ways to make an impact, a positive impact in any way that you can, whether that be socially or environmentally. But it's just a matter of consistency. It's a matter of continuously doing the right things, continuing to share your voice, and to make sure that, you know, movements don't die, that movements continue. We need to keep momentum going on social issues, on environmental issues. These things just, you know, they have a tendency to trend. And as I said before, and it makes me look at certain things and be like, is that disingenuous, or are you guys on board? And I'm not speaking to anybody specifically. It's just, you know, you've been around long enough, you've seen enough of these things to where it just kind of comes and dies. So it's just, we have all got to do our part, keep momentum going, keep getting the word out, keep doing the right thing, and keep moving forward.
And just to wrap things up, guys, Jack, you perfectly summed up what I was going to say. What do you think mindful companies play in the role of tomorrow? How do we move on from where we are now to make it more of a normality that we're doing these things? The final thoughts.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, sure. So just to wrap up, what are your hopes and dreams for how we move forward to keep our momentum going into the future?
Consistency, like, yeah, I think that was like a common theme throughout. I think is consistently doing the right thing, consistently, like, you know, investing in things that actually help our communities, help our planet, and don't like hinder and take away and all of that. So I think that consistently doing the right thing with our brands and what they represent is definitely on my agenda for 2021.
Tommy?
Yeah, I think one of my probably biggest, I have a lot of aspirations, but I think probably the biggest one is that there's more, obviously it's hard in these times, but I think that there's just generally more positivity in the world. I think there's so much, you know, while addressing these very serious and pressing issues, all the meantime, you know, trying to bridge, I think there's a lot of divide in our country right now, and I'd like to, you know, move forward and, you know, address some of these really pressing issues, while hopefully, I don't know, hopefully just people have a better 2021. I think it's been a pretty rough year for a lot of people, and I'm just hoping for, I guess I'm just hoping for like a better 2021, more positive things, and hopefully we make some progress on a lot of the issues. So yeah, I don't know if that's a pretty vague answer, but more positivity and just a good 2021.
Hopefully, I hate to say it, but I hate to say, like, could it get any worse in 2021? But
I hope not.
I'm hoping that the world in general, we can turn a new page in 2021 and see some real positive change across the board. And like we've kind of been hitting on all day or all hour, it's just about consistency. It's about keeping the movements going and keeping the momentum moving forward, not getting sidetracked. And I think most brands are doing that. As much as I've said, like, you don't want things to turn into a trend or whatever. I'd like to believe that most brands are not using anything like this as a trend.
All right, guys. Well, I'd like to thank Ashley and Tommy and Jack for sharing their thoughts and wisdom with us today. Go check out their pages on the Project Digital website. I'm Stephen Garner, the fashion director of MR Magazine, and hope to see you guys in the future. See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Steven.